starting with my mug.
There you go. Oh, I don't have it turned around yet. I'm stuck on yours too.
Oh, sorry.
Hey,
Okay.
it is Kelly with Coffee Break with Seaglass, which is the name we've decided on. And I am here in Leland, North Carolina with Tracy and Claire. And they are going to share some of the steps that they go through to create the beautiful pottery that you see at Seaglass. So I'm going to flip around. This is Miss Claire.
Good morning.
And we have Tracy as well.
Good morning.
And together they are Twicebaked Pottery, which is a fun name, by the way. I like it. And Claire is kind enough to show us exactly how. What are you going to make?
I'm going to make a mug.
She's going to make a mug. She's going to start, which would be what is their first step. So you can go ahead whenever you're ready. And
Okay.
if you want to describe or explain
Right.
what you're doing, feel free.
So this is porcelain, about a pound of porcelain. I've already wedged it up, and then so it's ready for the first step. Oh, and I haven't done this on camera, so we'll see how it goes.
So do you need to keep your hands wet at all times?
Yes, because the wheel is spinning, any kind of friction will slow the clay down. So the first step that I'm doing is just getting the clay centered on the wheel.
Is that as fun as it looks?
It is as fun as it looks. Yeah, we do this for a reason. It's very stress relieving. I mean, you talk about centering clay. It also centers your mind, for sure. So once you get the clay centered in your little cake, you open, center. So this is the basis of our little cup.
Oh my God, I'm mesmerized.
Yeah.
Like I could watch this all day long.
Yeah, it's fun.
Now that I know where you live, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you can come anytime.
Caroline said, "Go, Mama."
Yeah. I have so many friends that have little girls that come over and hang out with me, and mentoring a Boy Scout
Wow,
next
that's
week
awesome.
to get his pottery badge, which I'm super excited about. Okay, so now we've got our floor of our mug made and our
Okay.
wall set, and so then we start
Oh
the
my
process
gosh,
of
that
pulling
is
up
so
the walls,
cool.
which I'm doing not a great job because
It looks good to me.
here, other stuff down this side.
And you're using just a rag, or is it?
It's a sponge. It's a really thin throwing sponge. A lot of potters don't use sponges; they just use their fingers. But I started throwing with a sponge almost from the get-go. We got sponges, and I really like that. So it's about 3 pulls to get the height up. So I'm trying to get all this weight down out of the bottom of this mug. So we get a nice cylinder.
Do you know what that would look like if I even attempted? What a hot mess! It's like perfect.
No, it's not. So
Well,
there,
Well, it looks
that's
it
what
to
it looks
me.
like. That it looked like a hot mess when you started.
so there's our cylinder. So then to make it into this finished form, we just have to shape it. So
Okay.
there's no more pulling the clay up at this point. It's just gentle shaping. So for these curvy mugs that I make into my North Carolina mugs, I like to give them a little waist to start with.
Everybody needs a little waste.
A little waist would be helpful. And then start bellying out the bottom.
It is so cool.
And so you can, this is where all the shaping is done right on the wheel. There. And then we'll trim up the bottom. So this is wet trimming. So this is the part that's done on the wheel. It gets rid of any extra clay that's down there. After this is set up for about a day, we'll put it back on the wheel, upside down, and trim the foot out.
Okay.
Or anything
And that's what
else.
you'll be doing with the piece that you have ready, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
So we're gonna just want to make sure we get a nice smooth curve. I spent a lot of time getting the curve smooth because there's no bumpy transitions. And then I'm doing this a little faster than I normally would. And then set the lip, because that's the part that is going to meet your mouth as a user of the mug, and so you want the lip to curve in and meet the mouth. So there's that.
So you take a lot into consideration. You just don't bang out a mug.
No.
You are
Yeah.
taking into consideration who.
That who's going to use the mug. That's
Right.
When I sell a mug, I always say, I hope this will be your favorite mug, and it's really because we've spent a lot of time thinking about who the end user is. How do they like to hold a mug? How thick do they want the walls so that it doesn't burn their hands when it has hot liquid in it?
Right. Which, believe it or not, super important to me.
Super important.
I hate a mug that is just too
thin.
hot. Yeah.
And I like to throw thin, but it's not practical for everything. You can throw a base thinner, but for a usable item, I don't want you to ever worry that I've thrown the lip too thin that it's going to chip, or that it's going to burn you. And then later we'll get to putting the handle on. How does the user want to hold? Do they want 2 fingers? Do they want 3 fingers? Do they want to snuggle the mug like this with their hand on the inside? Everybody likes it different, and so
it's very personal.
it is very personal. But at the same time, Tracy and I often say that the maker's hands show up in the work, and so when I'm making mugs that I think specifically are for men, I make them a little bigger. I make the handles bigger because I assume that they're going to have larger hands than me. But at the same time, it's my hand that's forming the handle. It's my hand that is forming the lip, and so that always shows up. Even if I'm thinking I'm making a masculine form, it's still a form that I make.
Right.
So that's the basics of just a simple throw.
Okay. So that is something that you started. Well, this one you just did just now, obviously.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But you made one yesterday, so you would be able to show us what the next step would be after this.
Yep.
From here to there, how long do you wait?
So typically you would wait a couple of days. You want the pottery to slow dry so that it doesn't crack. The faster you dry your pottery, the more chances you have of developing cracks.
Okay.
So typically I would wait a couple of days. These are porcelain, so they dry a little faster. I didn't cover this up. I just threw it last night, so it's to the stage what they say just released from the vat. This is to the stage that they call leather hard, so it's still cool to the touch, and my fingerprints don't show up in it like they do in this.
Right.
So this is how I know it's ready to trim. It's ready to attach a handle.
Okay, great.
So.
And does the weather play a role?
Oh yeah.
So when it's 1,000 degrees, like it almost is today, does it dry faster?
It can dry faster, and
is that a problem?
It can be a problem, and so we slow dry everything under plastic, just to make a little bubble to keep the moisture in for things.
Okay.
Like Tracy's going to demonstrate some slab work. You want to dry that really, really slowly because she would keep that under plastic and weight it down.
Okay.
For up to a week, and sometimes even longer. Mm-hmm.
So, the item that you have in your hand right now, you started it yesterday.
Yes.
You let it dry overnight.
Yep.
You're going to start your next step.
My next step.
For that specific item, for that size mug, how long from start to finish would you say is average? Because I'm sure there's a little difference. 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
Okay. Did you hear that, people?
Yeah,
3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and it's hours. That
right.
That took me 5 minutes, but that's nowhere near finished. And I have to trim it, which sometimes takes a long time. Sometimes for mugs, I don't do a ton of trimming. Because I do most of my shaping on the wheel.
Okay.
So we'll just put a little foot in this, clean up the bottom, and then it'll be ready to put on the handle, which involves pulling a handle, which we can do. Everybody thinks that's entertaining. So my kids are mesmerized. So I was out here pulling handles one day, and my daughter was like, "You are a magician." Yeah, but it's not that exciting. But then you talk about decorating time. Say that Tracy's going to hand paint that. You could spend hours of time hand painting it. If I'm going to do a transfer, that is incredibly involved to get them smooth and so that you don't have wrinkles in whatever you're doing. If we're gonna add anything to that, if I'm gonna put a North Carolina on there, I have to roll that clay out and get that done.
Right.
And it's just
so it is a very long process.
It's involved, yes. It's a very involved process.
Okay, and what is the step that you're about to do now?
So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna trim the foot. So I'm recentering the clay. I'm recentering the mug. These are little chunks of wet clay that I'm gonna put around the base just to hold it in place, because when I start trimming, you don't want it to slide around. So we're gonna put those down.
Have you ever lost a piece on the wheel? Gone?
Yes.
Tracy, have you?
Many times. Many times. And so this part is very similar to working on a lathe. So all I'm doing at this point is just kind of refining the shape. So I want this belly to really show up. So to do that, I'm going to narrow the foot a little bit.
And the foot is just the bottom of the mug?
Right, yes. Yeah, foot, belly, lip.
Okay, great. There you go.
Yeah, that's the way it kind of works. And so at this point, we can add texture in. We can use these tools to add texture, to give places for the for the clay for the glazes to break. We can smooth that texture back out if we want to have a really smooth, glossy finish to our clay. You have to. At this point, you have to think, how am I going to finish this? How am I going to glaze it? Okay. So then, to do the foot, put in a little recessed foot. So it's always nice to have the piece elevated off the table just a little bit. It gives a little bit of lightness. Nobody likes a fat bottomed piece of pottery.
They're like fat bottom girls.
Yeah, they do like fat bottom girls, but I'm never happy when my pottery looks fat bottomed.
It's very satisfying to watch the ribbons.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, and so what this step also does. So I mentioned when we started that I started with a pound of clay. That does not you do not end up with a mug that weighs a pound. A lot of the weight is in moisture.
Oh, okay.
Is in water. So it doesn't even go into the kiln until it's completely bone dry. So at that point it loses better than a third of its weight. But this step also removes some of the extra weight from the bottom of your mug. So this step can take just as long as you want it to take.
It would take forever, and I'd end up with nothing left because I love the ribbon shooting off.
Well, and if I had $1 for every piece I'd trim through, because you get so carried away trimming that you forget how you have to think about when you prune the mug how deep you've set that bottom.
Right.
So, and that happens all the time. So I'm gonna just smooth this up. This mug I'll probably put a North Carolina on there, because I'm currently out of stock with my North Carolina mugs and people have been asking. And then I like to take a wet finger and smooth that bottom so that this is the part, the bottom is not going to have any glaze on it. And so you want to make sure that this is nice and smooth, doesn't have any burrs, doesn't have anything that would scratch up your table.
Okay. So again, you were thinking of the end user.
Nice and smooth. So I want to keep that polished, and then I would probably spend a few more minutes doing that, but for time's sake, we're not going to. Okay, and so then it's time to work on a handle.
So that's step 1 in the back and step 2 in the front.
Right. And so for a handle for this mug, I like to start the handle somewhere around here and have a big round so that the handle fits into this concave part
Okay.
and comes around. So with a handle, you start with a carrot of clay, and then you get it wet, and then it's similar to milking a cow. And so I'm compressing and smoothing and pulling that clay into a handle. So every single handle on every single mug is hand shaped, hand pulled. And so I want to thin it out because I want to think about, I don't want it too thick this way, I don't want it too thick this way. Do I want to put a ridge down the center so you have a nice comfortable place to hold? Do I want to have the back curved for those back fingers? You know, do I want this to be a decorative handle? Do I want it to be a two-piece handle? All of those things come into play. So once I've pulled the handle and gotten it about where I want it, and I can loop it around and see, okay, that's probably going to be enough. We'll set this to the side and let it dry up a little bit because this is leather hard, this is wet. If I put this on at this point, it would pull, the moisture from this would soak into this and pull right off of it.
Oh, okay.
So that doesn't work. So, the magic of TV, we already have one, we have one ready to go. So this one I pulled this morning. So it's not quite as firm as this, but it's drier than that one.
Right.
And so then I'll kind of place it behind and look, you know, is that where do I want, you know, do I want a 2-finger? Do I want more of a 4-finger? Do I want a 3-finger? You know, all of that comes into play. And then I'm doing this more quicker than I would ordinarily.
Yeah, and I'm sure people understand that.
Yeah.
You know,
So-
we have some time constraints here,
Yeah.
otherwise we'll be here all day, which
Right.
I wouldn't mind because it's very interesting.
Right.
But I'm sure Claire has other things to do.
I got more mugs than that. Okay, so this is the part that's going to attach. And so the glue that we use is called slip. So it's just really watery clay. So I take this rib that has serrated teeth and scratch it up like this. And then I find where I'm going to attach the mug, the handle. Scratch that up. And get some water in there, and so that water wets that clay
That's so crazy.
and makes. So then I'll attach this in here, and this part can take just as long as you want to take. You know, production potters can do this super fast. I like to really take my time and make sure I get a good join here. And then at this point, it's on.
Okay.
The handle is on. So I would spend more time finishing, smoothing, getting all that ready. And so then I can decide where do I want, you know, how fat of a handle do I want? Do I want a longer handle for people
Right.
that like to hold their mugs like that? Do I want a rounder? Whatever. We'll just do this one right where it falls just for simplicity's sake. So we scratch that up. Wet it up a little bit. Make sure it's straight. That's something that I'm still working on.
Right, because if you're
Yeah.
holding it the wrong
Yeah.
way, it might look straight, and then you look at it dead on, and you're
Right.
like, uh-oh.
Yeah, and then all these pieces are handmade, and so they're not made in a factory, and so you do see.
I like the
hang-
imperfections,
yeah,
though.
yeah,
It makes it more personal.
The Asian philosophy of wabi sabi, that there's beauty in the imperfection. Really, I think about that a lot. So once I have my handle done, so pretty much we're close at this point. I would do a lot more cleanup around my joins. I still have to roll out my North Carolina, get that cut out, put on. Then we'll let this dry at least 24 hours so that this joint has time to really firm up and that this comes as hard as this
Okay.
before we do any kind of decorating, carving, painting, whatever else we want.
Okay. So from start to finish, that would, on average, take you about 3 weeks to finish.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that, it's at least a week before it even starts the process of the kiln. And that's why we're Twicebaked Pottery, because they go through the kiln process twice.
Okay.
The first process is called bisque firing, and so what that does is that is a low temperature firing. It's like about 1200 degrees, and that firms it up to the point where it can absorb the glazes.
Okay.
Really dries it out. And then after they're glazed, they go into a second firing, which is about 2200 degrees, which is a 24-hour process of firing, and then they're ready unless we decide that we want to put a luster on them or decal or gold or whatever else,
Right.
and then they would go in for a third fire.
Gotcha. Wow.
So-
Okay. Alrighty, so
So-
that is the mug, and that will eventually be one of your North Carolina mugs,
That will
correct?
be one of my North
I'm
Carolina
going to
mugs.
move this mic, so it
Okay.
might be a little loud on the video, and I apologize, but I want to get it closer to Tracy for her, and I'm going to put it right behind you because I feel that's more than enough, and I think it'll clip right on there. So I apologize if that was noisy for the people watching. So Tracy
Yes.
is the other half of Twicebaked Pottery. And what are you going to do for us today?
I'm just going to show some tools and a little bit of the process of hand building, not do a complete thing.
Okay.
It takes a little longer than throwing on the wheel, but so this is a finished kinds of texture. It has some three-dimensional, a shell and a turtle on it, glazed on the inside. So to do this, it would be really hard to put this kind of texture into something that's thrown on the wheel.
Okay.
So when you want something textured like that and that's not round,
Right.
you use a slab. And this is just a tiny little slab. I have a slab roller, so it rolls everything out at the same thickness.
Okay.
So this is about a 1/4 inch slab. And some of the tools we would use are laser engraved rolling pins. This one is the wave
Awesome.
pattern used on this base.
Okay.
There are hundreds, maybe thousands of these. This one's one of my favorites.
That's beautiful.
Yep, they're designed for cookies. So a lot of what we use are baker's tools.
Okay.
So I've taken a rib and just kind of smoothed out and compressed this clay a little bit. And we'll use this one because it's such a pretty pattern. And you just roll it on there. And there you go. This clay's a little stiff, so it's not taking the pattern as well as it probably could. But you can
Oh, I
see
love
that.
it though. Yeah, you can totally see
And then we
it.
can roll that over and we'll try the wave. Oh yeah, I just need to push it a little harder. Perfect. So there's the wave.
I'm in my own shadow. I'm trying to get the wave and not my shadow in the phone.
Okay.
I love it.
So for the molds, like the turtle, we use little silicone molds. These are designed for chocolate.
Okay.
This is actually a mat with a design in it of floral daisies. And this is actually made for pottery. So we don't discriminate here. We'll use any kind of tool.
Right. Whatever's pretty.
Right. This is just a wooden design that you could put on a fireplace or on the corner
Oh,
of
okay.
your door, doorway,
Right.
whatever. So that, but it makes a great indention. I made coasters with this. I put designs in the middle of plates or little things. This is a fondant roller, and so it gives you a wave pattern. Here's a leaf pattern, polka dots. You can use almost anything.
So
to
lots of tools.
Right,
And,
lots of tools.
And I'm assuming you guys learn as you go what can be used, what works, what doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah, and you kind of go through life and think, oh my gosh, I can roll that into cookies.
Yep. Now this is, you could use a real hydrangea leaf if you wanted to. This happens to be a silicone pattern
Right.
template, and also too, you just lay it on your clay, roll it with the rolling pin, and then just cut out a round. We have spoon rests at Seaglass
Nice.
made out of
Yes,
this
you
pattern.
do.
So this is also a fondant cutter. You just push it down.
So it's just
Pop it
like
out.
it's dough.
Oh, that's too
Yeah,
wet.
yeah.
Hang on, we'll do another one. We'll do
Yeah,
another
it
one.
is exactly like cookies.
Yeah. Oh, not working. One's too wet, one's too dry.
This is going to be in the bloopers reel at the
That's
end.
okay.
Oh, there you go. That was
There we
perfect.
go, perfect.
So there you go. So there's a little design
I love it.
to embellish. So yeah, there's just I like hand building. It's a little more organic.
Right. I
Then-
like so here's the thing. I love this. I love a mug. I love a good mug. But for something like that, I don't mind the funky, fun, uneven
Right.
craziness of it. It's just that there's so many different things that you can make that there's different ways to make them.
Right.
So I get that,
And you can take
but love that.
and you can take a mug and you can
Oh,
embellish
look
it.
at that guy.
This is some hand carving. These are some fondant molds that I used to put the seashells on there. Got a little seashell on the thumb.
Adorable.
This is my at home favorite mug.
Okay.
So you can take the combination of the wheel throwing and a combination of the hand building and create some really spectacular stuff.
Right. I
And
love it.
what I like about, and Claire is very proficient on that wheel, but what I like about it is that every cup is going to be a little different. Whether
Right. Well, look at those two. One
they're-
is much wider than the other
Right.
one, but they're the same shape, but they're still completely different.
And they started with that same weight of clay.
Right.
So if you want something that looks mass produced, please go out to Walmart and pay $3.99 for a coffee mug.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you want something that has character, that has shown the hands of the maker, that is local, that is made with North Carolina clay, and
Right.
is really
In Brunswick County.
In Brunswick County.
loved.
Right.
They're all I used to draw and paint a lot, and as somebody would buy a painting, it was like having to let go of one of my kids.
Right.
It kind of feels that way with pottery. You've thought about it. You've had your hands in it, literally. You've put it
Well, you
together.
created
you
something
created it.
amazing.
You picked the color. You've loved on it, and you're going to give it away or sell it to somebody who's going to take it it away from you, and it's just
and you
a
hope
little
that
hard.
they love it as
Yes,
much as
you
you
want
do.
it. You want them to love
Yeah,
it.
we make pieces to be used, to be loved, to
Right.
be, part of your everyday life. Is very important. I don't want to sell anything that somebody's going to put in a cabinet. and
I
never
agree.
use.
I totally
And none of
agree.
it is too precious. All of our pottery is dishwasher and microwave safe, oven safe when it's appropriate. And we want these to be pieces that become part of your everyday life.
Right. I totally agree with that. So the other thing that I know I thought about on the way here, I feel like sometimes people don't get it, which I understand. Why would I didn't prior to opening Seaglass? You don't realize the heart and the soul and the sweat and the time that goes into creating something from scratch. So I want to be very clear about items, especially at Seaglass, that are made in fact from scratch. This is not something that you buy ready-made and then you embellish it. It's not a mug that you buy.
This is not a paint your own pot.
Right. That's what I'm thinking of. Like
And
sometimes
those
I
are
feel
great.
like people
Yeah.
don't understand
Yeah.
the difference between ceramics
Right.
and pottery.
Yeah.
So watching you take that literally a mound of clay that
Yeah.
was nothing,
It's mud.
put it on something that spins so quietly, I might add,
Yeah.
and
I
then
love
turn it into that. And knowing that it's just the first few steps, knowing that so much more time and thought and consideration is going to go into the end user, that's part of the beauty of being an artisan. It's part of the beauty of purchasing from artisans. So I just want to be very clear that Twicebaked Pottery at Seaglass Salvage Market makes their items from scratch, people, with their lovely little hands.
Yes, yeah. Our nails don't look great, but
But I loved spending time with you this morning. I appreciate the fact that you allowed me to watch your process. I look forward to, and if you don't mind, either one or both of those mugs are done, I'd love a final
Absolutely.
photo so they
Sure.
could see the true ending of it.
Right.
And maybe we can get whoever purchases
That's
it
it.
to take a picture
Yeah.
holding it.
Maybe we
to
could
show.
raffle one off, and you could and donate the proceeds to the girls' organization.
Love
that
it,
you do.
love it.
Wouldn't
I
that be
support
fun?
the girls.
I
Yes,
support
that
the
would
girls.
that would
We
be
could do a
fantastic.
raffle.
So you have to put little boobies on there or something.
You would be surprised how many potters do that.
So yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, that'd be
so
great.
we're going to get to see the final product once Claire is finished with that,
So
and
go
we
ahead and-
are going to donate the proceeds from that mug to I Support the Girls,
Yeah.
which is a foundation or an organization that you can find each month at Seaglass. I am very lucky to be the director for I Support the Girls of the Southeast
So
and
I
North
just
Carolina
put I
chapter.
support the girls in the bottom, so we all remember which mug it is.
Awesome.
And
So just remember that, ladies, if you're watching and you decide that you'd like to be part of this process here, you can eventually purchase that mug.
we'll put it up.
Or we'll
hopefully
raffle it, or we'll do something fun
yeah,
with it.
yeah.
But I appreciate that. Thank
Yeah,
you so
that's
much.
fun.
You'll have to blaze it too.
I know.
Yeah,
Good,
for
that
sure.
would be great.
So just a reminder, Twicebaked Pottery can be found at Seaglass Salvage Market the third weekend of every month. You can contact Claire or Tracy at any time for custom items. Please
Which we don't do a ton of custom
right,
items.
and I was just going to say, please take into consideration that if you want something for a present 2 weeks from now, if it's not already made, you're not going to be able to purchase it from them. So I'm thinking Christmas gifts now.
Now, because we're gearing up for
Yes,
Christmas.
they are gearing up for
now.
Christmas, and we're doing a Christmas in July at the next market, which will be super fun. Claire's idea, by the way. So we'll do that. Where can you be found anywhere else? Are you in any local shops?
No, I'm just at Seaglass and on Instagram.
Okay. And Tracy, are you now at
Baker Street.
Baker Street Curiosity Shop on Market Street? So if you want to see some of her items that are already done 7 days a week, you can pop into Baker Street. If you want to see her lovely display each month, their lovely display, I should say, each month, you'll come to Seaglass Salvage Market, and you can reach out to either of them on Facebook or Instagram. Again, just to throw it out there, I know you guys know, but I have to do it. 1987 Andrew Jackson Highway in Leland. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram so you can stay up to date on what we're doing and who we're doing it with. And thank you, ma'am, for allowing us into your home.
Thank you so much.
And Tracy, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us and showing us your fun little stuff there. I want to take one last. I'm on a chair with wheels so I can roll around. That is one of Tracy's completed items, which is just delicious. I hope that you can see how great the colors are on that. And there, of course, is her favorite mug. And the mugs that Claire is in the process of making. And we are very excited about figuring out what we're going to do with that mug, and I Support the Girls. So thanks very much, and thank you for offering.
Of course.
Alrighty, thank you guys. Have a great day.